New at 6:30, we're learning about proposed legislation at the State House that would take guns out of the hands of people convicted of domestic violence. It would also mandate that people with a restraining order due to a domestic violence case surrender their firearms. And joining me live in studio now is Zulma Garcia, Director of Policy at the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, my first question for you, this bill tightens up the language on an existing law requiring specifically that guns be turned over to state or local police or a licensed gun dealer. What kind of improvement is that from what's in place right now?
You know, it's hard to tell because in Rhode Island we have 43 law enforcement agencies. They all have different policies on how to remove those guns from those domestic violence situations. So it's challenging to kind of say how that will be an improvement.
Okay, so I guess question two then would be, the legislator proposing the bill says it would cut domestic violence deaths by roughly 25%. Are we really seeing these cases a lot?
Well, you know, domestic violence and guns is a deadly combination. Since the 1980s, the Coalition Against Domestic Violence has been tracking the homicides. And in the last decade, we've had over 1/3 homicides have involved guns.
Wow. And yeah. I understand that Rhode Island isn't the first state to take up this measure either. Currently, almost half a dozen states already have these sort of laws in place. So I guess what was the delay in getting it in place here in Rhode Island?
You know, in 2005, the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence worked with the General Assembly to pass the Homicide Prevention Act, which dealt with guns and protection orders. And we are so encouraged now that community groups have taken on strengthening that law.
Do you think this is a big plus for people out there, domestic violence victims? Because I know even with restraining orders, that fear is still there. Will this help?
Absolutely. Any legislation that proposes to keep victims of domestic violence safe is a great legislation. You know, we hope to see that it's an opportunity for our state to examine the problem and come together to solve it.
All right, Zulma Garcia, thank you so much for being with us. And you can find extended coverage about domestic violence safety right now on WPRI.com. We've put together a resource guide of vital information for victims of abuse, including how to seek help and find a safe place.